Is the guitar industry just running around in circles? I see a lot of, oh, that's just another Tube Screamer when anything gets released. So I think we should talk about it. Hey everyone, Chris here.
And my name is Guillaume. Welcome to Thomann's Guitars and Basses and to today's video, which is not a rant. It's not a rant. It's a very
I'm not sure yet.
positive outlook on the current state of the guitar industry. This is what we're going to talk about today because it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. We don't do enough of the metaphysical stuff around
Imagine
here.
This being a podcast.
Yeah.
With a video. Yeah.
I'm gonna be the Joe Rogan of this situation and ask all the questions because I actually have no idea what we're talking about. So I feel like it's pretty.
And in order to ask the right questions,
no
you do
disrespect.
not know.
He's very curious, and I admire that. But yeah, we wanted to talk about just the general state of products that have been coming out over the past few years, and a lot of the reactions that we've seen. We're in the very fortunate position to be on the forefront of those product releases. We see everything that comes out. We play most of what comes out, and so we usually expose pretty quickly to the early reactions of what people have on their hearts, with the absolute lack of censorship that YouTube and the internet in general offers. We've been exposed to some pretty brutal opinions about the state of the industry. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. That's as much about the actual industry, like what is coming out, and also the same amount of digesting how the reaction is, like how the perception of the guitar audience is to all those gear, and most importantly, the lack of interest in some things coming from a few people. We're not generalizing things, of course. I see how many people are really excited about this new amp, that new guitar, this new pedal, whatever it is. But there's a loud, probably minority, but who knows really what the percentages are, who is like, cool. That's just another Tube Screamer or another Strat or another whatever, Marshall, depending on what kind of section of the guitar rig we're talking about. There's always this kind of, boring kind of reaction, which is absolutely understandable.
To an extent, yeah.
In my opinion, there's a little more to it. But who said I'm right? So do let us know in the comment what you think about it, and I will definitely squeeze the truth out of this dude, out of Willi.
Oh my God,
we just figured out his name in German. Guillaume in German is Wilhelm. So
I swear to God, if any of you I will ban you. I do not care.
I will block the channel so that you cannot ban anyone.
No, I will delete the channel.
Don't worry, Willi.
I'm manager.
We're your friends.
I will delete the channel.
No.
So you'll better chill down there. We're talking about gear, not the translation.
Sorry,
translation of my name.
I just wanted to bring you my level of upsetness.
That's it. Now I'm angry. Let's get going. Let's start with guitars, because I think we can cut that video pretty... by the way, if you made it this far, you should definitely subscribe, because that's strength of character right there. You deserve it. You deserve more content.
I'm proud of you.
So definitely subscribe to the channel. Let's start with guitars, then we can go through floor effects, multi-effects and all that stuff, and then finish with amps, because that's logical, and we are a scientific channel. Guitars that have been coming out with the first reaction from people being it's either one of two things that I've seen, that, oh my God, another one of those, and oh, that's cool, but why didn't you put that new stuff, oh, cool. It's a solid take on the Strat. It's a solid take on the Les Paul. But why didn't you put the stainless steel frets? Why didn't you put Fishman pickups in it? Why didn't you put locking tuners? Or why didn't you put roasted that fancy cool bridge or whatever? It's not roasted. It's not this. It's not that. The truss rod wheel or truss rod adjustment is still in the headstock, or even worse, by the neck joint instead of being a wheel somewhere on the neck. And it's been either or. And to me, that's always been like a little symptomatic of people that are conflicted between why do you want to reinvent the wheel? Like Leo did it right the first time, kind of a team.
That kind of quote. Yeah.
And the second, which is like, I want everything that's modern, but I'll be angry if it's not the things that I want to be. If it's not exactly the things I want to see in that guitar. So be careful about how you innovate, type of a thing.
Yeah.
So
how do you feel about it? Do you feel like you personally want innovation in guitars?
As far as guitars go, I'm definitely in the team Leo did it right.
Mm-hmm.
As much as people want to complain about the lack of stainless steel frets on whatever Fender series, like I'm curious how many of them ever had an issue with regular nickel frets and ever had to have their guitar refretted. Like I think we can say safely that we play guitar more than most because it's literally our job.
Work. Yeah.
It's every day.
Plus the hobby. So
those guitars in the studio, not a single one of them has ever had to be refretted.
I have this guitar for 7 years, and you can ever so slightly see a little dent on the second fret at the G string, which is the most problematic
it's the
one.
happy place.
Yeah.
But like
ever so slightly.
So I'm always
I probably
curious.
have like 15 years until I have to worry about this guitar, which makes the guitar over 20 years old, which is like, is that a big issue? Yeah, this depends on how you play, like how heavy-handed you are. This depends on how much you play. This depends on how heavy-handed you pick. And this depends on how often you change your strings. Because, fun fact, not very funny at all, actually, terrible fact, old strings eat your frets to death super fast. Because of that rust, that corrosion on the surface makes it basically a sandpaper, just a sand string. Do you know what I mean? It literally rubs off the surface of the fret. And with nickel, that kind of, is obvious really fast. With stainless steel, it takes longer, but also it also kind of destroys stainless steel frets after a time. So if you're one of those, 6 to 7 months of not changing strings and not using coated strings, at least, which, don't corrode for a very long time, you're not doing your frets good at all. That's just a factor that also plays plays a big role. But let's not get sidetracked too much.
What is your take on innovation?
My personal take is that just give me a Les Paul and a Tele and I'm happy, and that's it.
But
no, I did not forget a Strat. I like Strats, but whatever. But I do appreciate all the innovation in both directions. First, modernizing stuff, going for different materials, making new bridge constructions. The reappearance of headless guitars after the 80s, it was just super uncool. And then Strandberg made it really cool again. And now Kiesel and whatever brands are, selling a lot of those, and Ibanez and whatever. Oh, sorry. And the other side is the budget side of life, because we've never had better guitars that didn't cost a lot of money than now.
That comes from innovation as well.
Exactly. That is the only reason why we have really good affordable guitars compared to 10 or even worse like 20 or 30 years ago is because there are releases, there are new brands who try to make it better for less if possible than another competitor, and that is just purely because we have all these releases and new brands and another T style, another S style. So I think
and it's that
we should really, really be happy about companies doing another whatever, because that drives the others, the competition, to do better, if possible, for less, or at least not more expensive.
But it's that trickle-down sort of manufacturing process as well. If you see that stainless steel frets are all the rage, then stainless steel goes in bulk, and then this manufacturer is going to buy that much, and they're going to be able to make it available not only for that guitar that was initially planned to have stainless steel frets, but every other guitar that's going to be manufactured there. Same with like a lot of species of wood. Like instead of taking that endangered species of wood, that manufacturer is going to innovate by taking ironbark, like Taylor, and they start making guitars out of woods that are very non-traditional. And at the end of the day, that's a proof of concept. Okay, that means we can make guitars out of this wood that there's still plenty of.
And people accept it.
And people accept it. And then in 10 to 20 years, we might have 50% of acoustic guitars in the world made out of that kind of wood. That's the kind of innovation that drives the industry forward as well. Not only because you have new fancy spec'd sort of niche instruments, but because it brings those specs. It's like the military and like the GPS and this and the internet.
Yeah, the NASA technology.
Exactly. Like all that technology that was developed for those very specific industries that at the end of the day ended up making it to us. You know?
And the consumer.
It's the same thing. Same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same thing with like cars and safety features and whatever.
So smart. Oh, so smart today.
This is awesome.
It's going to be a good video.
All right, enough blabber about guitars. Let's move on to pedal boards. Pedals / modelers.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I ruined your game.
That's fine.
Another tube screamer. Oh, that's just another fuzz face. Oh, that's just another blues breaker. I totally get it. If you don't really care for a certain guitar sound or for pedals in general, every single... This is based on the blues breaker, will just be a come on. Do we need another blues breaker? And it's legit. I mean, I totally understand it. I feel like that for other things, not for the blues breaker, no. But that's totally normal. The fact is that if you think about the, he's petting the Colosseum, which is on the right side, Cornerstone Colosseum. The right side, it's a blues breaker based circuit. And that's a very important word here. It's based on a tube screamer, a fuzz face, whatever. We've never had more usable tube screamer style pedals for modern amps than now. Because if you take like the original, which is amazing, those pedals were made for old Marshalls, old Voxes, old cranked, whatever, Fender amps, whatever that needed some help. Because it reduces the treble and the low end, it tightens up the amp, it pushes the mids, which drives it more into saturation, in a creamy, pleasant kind of saturation. If you take a plexi, crank it, and put a screamer in front, same thing with a rectifier, like those older generation high gain amps that just had an insane amount of low end, which is just too much to keep tight when you're palm muting. Put a screamer in front of a rectifier. I did that for many, many years, and that's like literally my dream high gain sound. Those pedals were made for those older amps and got discovered by like 90s high gain players. But we have very different amps now. I mean, if you look at these modern amps, even the Soldano, which is funny to call modern, it's like a 30-year-old design, but it's...
Hey, 30 is young. 30 is still young, okay? Even 31, dare I say, is great, very young. So, chill.
Wait, why do I have to think of the year 1993 all of a sudden? What happened that year? Who knows? Who knows?
Great things happened that year.
So the thing is that modern amps just benefit from modern takes on old designs or circuits. Like my favorite pedal that I overuse heavily, and I'm so sorry for it, is the Toxic Twins by Castator.
Really?
Is it? What? Oh. Can you repeat that? I could not. Which is, the left side is based on a blues breaker. Now, I bought a blues breaker reissue a couple of months ago, not because I needed it, just because I love the circuit and I wanted to appreciate it by owning the actual original one. I mean, the reissue, not the old one. Yeah. And I plugged both in, and I ended up putting the blues breaker, after a little petting, on my shelf because I love that pedal, but I prefer the modern version because it's based on that and then some. Yeah. And that is true for every single new tube screamer and fuzz face and whatever. Yeah. It's just those little things that these makers think of, like, oh, I love the original, but there's this and that I hate about it or just kind of misses it. Let's put it inside, and we all should really be happy about having that option. That's how I see pedal evolution, basically.
Yeah, then it subscribes to the same trickle-down manufacturing thing as before, like because manufacturers, players, and find new ways to sound like this, sound like that. You don't need the bucket brigade, this and that. It can be digital, and it's going to sound 99% of the way there. It doesn't have to be the GRC 48, 80, 50, whatever number of chip in your tube screamer, because at the end of the day, you can't even hear the difference. So let alone someone who's going to hear that guitar sound into a mix. It's like you do it because you appreciate the craft, because it feels different to you to play something that has emotional like value, sentimental value. Yeah. But other than that, that sort of renewal of the tube screamer design, the blues breaker design, the clone design, like the house on the board, like for example, for example, is it's the pedal design that's going to allow you to later down the road to have a $20 pedal that's based on that new design, not the old one, because the chip in the old one and the this in the old one is completely, it's gone. You can't even buy it anymore. But that design that came really close, well, that can be made for a lot cheaper if you just use
mass produce it
exactly,
and let robots make it instead of hand wiring.
And now people can buy something like the Bluesman, the Tone City, or the Blues Crab more for $15, maybe not even.
Or the Harley version, the 19-euro pedal. Exactly. What a crazy good sounding pedal!
And they sound amazing. And we got to thank those like revamped design for it. So be grateful. God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, and there's gonna be tiny differences. Like whenever a company brings out a new Bluesbreaker, that's my favorite circuit. But if I have 10 Bluesbreaker style pedals in front of me and I play through them, I will most probably not like most of them. And with not like, I don't mean I hate it. It's just like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't care for it. Even though for some other people who don't care about this kind of guitar tone, they just all sound the same when you play this. And fair enough, it's like, it's not their thing. But if you're really into a certain type of tone, then you become much more reflective and reactive to tiny differences. The compression, the amount of low end, how tight it is, the type of clipping. Is it, a hard clipper, whatever. Those little things can make such a difference, especially at high volumes.
Yes.
With the amount of harmonics and blah, blah, blah. All right, amps.
I don't think amps have been quite the same, revamped to the same degree that guitars and pedals have.
Yeah, true.
Most of them will share the same basic architecture using new parts, making the amps progressively more and more reliable, more and more easy to bias, to work on, there's a lot smaller chance to die while working on this amp than there is on working on an old Plexi, for example.
Probably.
This will not kill you. It's not out for you. The Plexi, though, you're always a millimeter away from dying. Like
probably. I never tried to fix any of those because I'm not stupid.
Those capacitors will. But I think it's not to the same degree as guitars and pedals because it's a different breed in itself. But I think
what do you think is the biggest change over the last 50 years, amp-wise? Is it tone? Is it features? Is it
it's features. It's features, but it's just I don't know. For me, amps feel different. But like you take something like the D20 or the D40 or any Rev product,
amps, by the way.
But the Sir signature, the Python, and any other amp that's now onboard IR with direct out load box, like included load box. Got a lot of like innovations that's implemented into a design that's antique, really. Like the tube amp is just like 1800s technology.
Yeah, pretty much. Almost.
But it's like radio transformers and tube. Like that technology is so outdated, and at the same time still so present because now it's cleaner and it's lighter and it's all those things. I feel like the biggest change, but the progressive implementation of new things in such an old piece of technology. That I don't know. For me, it's almost the point that I don't know how to phrase it. I thought not that it's uninteresting, but I think there was a lot more to say. Like there was a lot more debate about guitars and pedals online as there is about amps.
Yeah, I think with amps, it's a much more organic and reasonable change. What we are seeing, first of all, wattage. Like as soon as bands wanted to be super loud, they had to increase all the the capabilities and the power of the amps, and the first tweeds and whatever were really quickly not enough loud, so they went up and 50 watts, 60 watts, 80 watts, 100 watts, 200 watt, the major, etc. That was like the tendency, and then whenever it happened, I guess in the 90s, where monitoring technology and stage volumes and everything went down, it was like a curse to have all those very heavy, very loud amps that had to be super loud in order to sound that good. And that is, I think, the biggest change, and that's that reasonable and natural evolution of amps, that if you have like a really cool amp. This is a 40-watt amp, and you can crank it at reasonable high volumes, and it will sound amazing. And you don't feel like, oh, if only I was allowed to put 10 more dBs on this thing, then it would finally sound good. That is a huge step forward. And for that reason, I agree with you. I don't think there's a big debate on like, oh, do we really need this? Because amps don't come out every month. Amps is like, you kind of have to look for, oh, there's a new Soldano, the Astro, or oh, there's a new Rev, or there's a new Victory, or whatever. It's like, that's like a, oh, wow, cool. What are the features? How does it sound like? It's not as saturated as the pedal or guitar market, obviously, but I think we never had better amps than now. And of course, there are like those unique amps like a original AC30, a Plexi, a JTM, a Bassman, you know, like all those amps, of course, all other Fender amps, as a matter of fact, and other brands, smaller brands as well, that just had a certain sound that is just magical and will forever be one of those life goal sounds. But we never had amps that are usable, more usable than now. We never had amps that take pedals better than now. For example, these two, that's why we use a lot of Rev stuff, because those amps are just crazy good with pedals, and we do love some pedal drive. Victory V40 is the same thing. It's like there are current amps that are just unbeatable if you want to have something that does a lot without being super complicated and trying to emulate a modeler or whatever, like a multi-effect. And that's, I couldn't live without modern amps. Even like the new Friedman Plex, which I was so excited about. It tries to emulate, or well, it successfully nails, let's put it this way, the original 1968 50-watt Plexi. But it has a variac built-in, it has a usable master volume mod, it is not as heavy, it has like a lot of little modern things that make me want to play that amp much more than actually hunting
Plexi.
down an old one, which is gonna be super expensive and probably not very reliable and probably modded, because what do I know? I think modern amps is the way to go, unless you have a lot of money and want to go for that Tweed sound or that AC30 sound, and you can crank it. It's
right, Joe?
yeah, exactly. Or the Morgan amps. Oh my God. Yeah, so with amps, it's much more simple. I think it's just a natural evolution. Putting in all the DIs and load boxes and cabinet simulations is in the Sur and Rev amps. That's definitely the way to go. That's
so what's the point of this video, really? It's
maybe just start an argument, start not even an argument, a discussion.
Oh my goodness!
Fancy words today.
A reflection.
We shall all read between the lines
of the comment section after you've wrote your educated opinions.
And by the way, yeah, those dudes just work for Thomann and want to make sure that people keep on buying new stuff. People will buy new stuff whether we say anything or not. Don't worry about it. We don't worry about it. We just thought this is definitely an interesting subject, and we don't buy every single new pedal ourselves. We don't buy every single new guitar.
We try.
We try.
We fail for various reasons.
But yeah, there's a need for competition, and there's a need for a slow and very conservative, but still revolution that is just happening constantly, especially in the pedal market.
That's true. So maybe you can keep that in mind next time you see a line of a YouTube Screamer come out, or a clone that's got a different type of mix control, because whatever that may be. But it's food for thoughts, as they say.
All right, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about this whole subject, and see you in the next video. That might be shorter than this one. I think so.